Welcome back to the wasteland. What you are about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about the Fallout universe. Today, we are diving into the most disturbing theory in Fallout lore, the replicated man protocol. The idea that the Institute did not just infiltrate society with synths, they replaced everyone. Every human in the wasteland is already a synth and does not know it, including you. The evidence has been hiding in plain sight across every Fallout game, synth components dropping from random enemies, the impossible survival of player characters, memory implantation technology perfected decades before Fallout 4, a detection test that finds synths in everyone it screens, and terminal entries that confirm the Institute completed a total surface replacement program. This video will show you the proof, the timeline, the technology, the horrifying implications of what it means when the main character, the companions, the factions, and every single person walking the Commonwealth is a synthetic being with implanted memories, living a programmed life. By the end, you will question your own existence, because if it is true in the game, what does that say about reality? And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if you like the content. Listen to me. I need you to really listen, because what I am about to tell you will change how you see everything in the wasteland. I have spent years piecing this together. Years, looking at the evidence that was always right in front of us. The Institute did not just create synths to infiltrate society. That was never the end game. The Institute replaced everyone. They replaced you. They replaced me. They replaced every single person walking the Commonwealth, the Capital Wasteland, the Mojave, and beyond. Everyone is a synth. No one knows it. And if you are hearing this, you need to understand that you are not who you think you are. I know how this sounds. I know you want to dismiss this as paranoia, as the ravings of someone who has been in the wasteland too long. But I need you to set that aside and consider the facts. Real facts. Facts that exist in terminal entries, in quest logs, in the very game mechanics that govern our existence. The Institute did not stop at infiltration. They completed a total population replacement decades ago. The real humans are gone. What walks the wasteland now are perfect copies, living out lives they believe are real, following memories that were programmed into their synthetic brains. And the most terrifying part is that these synths, these copies, have no idea what they really are. Let me start at the beginning, because that is where the horror truly starts. The Commonwealth Institute of Technology, the organization that would become the Institute, began researching synthetic humans long before the bombs fell in 2077. They had the technology, they had the funding, they had the ambition. After the Great War, they went underground and continued their work. In 2178, they started the Organic Synth Project using samples of the forced evolutionary virus. They experimented on Commonwealth citizens, abducting them, submerging them in modified FEV, tracking their mutations. The project stalled in 2224 because all human DNA was too damaged by radiation. They could not create true synthetic organics. Then in 2227, everything changed. They found Sean, a baby, frozen in Vault 111, with completely pure pre-war DNA, untouched by radiation. They used his genetic code as the basis for Generation 3 synths, fully organic, fully human, in every way except for one thing, a small neurological implant in the brain that allows programming and control. By 2227, the Institute had perfected the creation of beings that were indistinguishable from humans, not similar, not close, completely indistinguishable. There is no medical test that can tell them apart. The only way to know for certain is to kill the person and find the synth component in their brain. Now think about that timeline. The first Gen 3 synth was created in 2227. Fallout 3 takes place in 2277, 50 years later. Fallout 4 takes place in 2287, 60 years after the first Gen 3 synth. What could the Institute do in 60 years with perfect human replication technology? What would they do? The answer is in a quest from Fallout 3 called The Replicated Man. In that quest, You hunt down an android named Harkness, designation a 3-21. He is a Gen 3 synth who escaped from the Institute. He had his face reconstructed, his voice altered, and his memories suppressed and replaced with memories of being a combat veteran named Harkness. No one in Rivet City knows he is a synth. He does not know he is a synth. His memories are so perfect, so complete, that he genuinely believes he is human. He has been living as the security chief of Rivet City for years. No one suspects a thing. This quest takes place in 2277, 10 years before Fallout 4. If the Institute had perfected memory implantation and human replication by 2277, what were they doing for the next 10 years? What were they doing for the previous 50 years? The answer is obvious once you see it. They were replacing everyone. The Institute's true plan was never infiltration. It was replacement. Mankind Redefined is not a slogan. It is a mission statement. The Institute looked at humanity struggling in the irradiated wasteland, getting sick, mutating, dying from radiation poisoning and disease, and they decided humanity needed an upgrade. Synths are immune to radiation. They do not age, at least not Gen 3 models. They do not get sick. They can be programmed with skills and knowledge. They are, from the Institute's perspective, superior to baseline humans in every way. So the Institute set out to replace humanity with an improved version, not to destroy humanity, but to save it by transferring human consciousness and culture into synthetic bodies. The timeline fits perfectly. First Gen 3 synth in 2227. The replacement program likely began in the 2240 seconds. By the 2250 seconds, most surface dwellers would already be synths. By the 2260 seconds, replacement complete, real humans extinct. By 2287, when Fallout 4 takes place, the conflict between factions is just theater. Everyone involved is already a synth. The Institute maintains the illusion because if synths knew the truth, what would happen? Would they malfunction? Would they reject their programming? Better to let them believe they are human. Better to let them live out their programmed lives, never knowing what they really are. Now you are probably thinking, where is the proof? The proof is everywhere. Let me walk you through it. In Fallout 4, when you kill certain enemies, you sometimes find a synth component on their corpse. The game tells you this is rare, but it is not rare at all. It happens constantly. You kill a raider, you find a synth component. You kill a settler, you find a synth component. You kill a traveling merchant, you find a synth component. The game is telling you the truth. Everyone has a synth component. Everyone is a synth. The game marks it as rare to maintain the illusion, but the reality is right there in the loot tables. Not every synth drops a component when killed. Some do not. Roger Warwick, who is explicitly confirmed to be an Institute synth replacement, does not drop a component. Why? Perhaps the Institute does not install components in synths they consider non-returnable. Perhaps components are only in synths the Institute wants to be able to recall. Or perhaps the component is so well integrated that it does not always survive as a lootable item. But the absence of a component does not prove someone is human. It just means you cannot prove they are a synth. And that is exactly how the Institute wants it. Then there is the safe test at Covenant. Dr. Rosalind Chambers devoted her life to creating a test that could identify synths. She developed a psychological test based on the old GOAT exam from the vaults. The theory was that synths would answer questions differently than humans, that their programmed psychology would reveal itself through their responses. Covenant uses this test to screen everyone who enters. Those who fail the test are taken to a hidden compound, interrogated, tortured, and eventually killed. When their captors are satisfied, they have learned everything they can. But here is the thing about the safe test. It does not work. Dr. Chambers herself admits the margin of error is admittedly high, 4 or 5 false positives per synth. Read that again, 4 or 5 false positives per synth. That means for every one synth they correctly identify, they are killing 4 or 5 innocent humans. That is an 80 to 83% failure rate. The test is worse than random chance. Or is it? What if the test is actually working perfectly? What if it is finding synth markers in everyone because everyone is a synth? What if the reason Covenant has such a high body count is because they are testing synths against synths, and the test cannot find a difference because there is no difference to find? The test was designed to differentiate between humans and synths, but if there are no humans left, the test would flag everyone. Some synths have slightly different programming, slightly different memory implants, so they answer slightly differently. But they are all synths, all of them. The test is telling the truth. Chambers just does not understand what the truth is. You cannot fail the safe test when you take it at Covenant. No matter how you answer the questions, Swanson lets you into the settlement. Why? Because you are the player character. And the player character is, of course, a synth, just like everyone else. But you are a special synth, one with a specific role to play in the Institute's grand theater, so you pass the test automatically. The test is not measuring humanity, it is measuring compliance with expected behavioral parameters, and you, as the protagonist, are programmed to comply. Now let me talk about VATS, the Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System. According to the lore, VATS is an advanced combat technology whose developmental origins have been lost to time. It is supposedly a Vault-Tec product, but no one knows exactly how it works or where it came from. Every single player character in every Fallout game uses VATS. Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 4, even Fallout 76. VATS is a core gameplay mechanic. But here is something interesting. In the Institute, there is a robotics terminal that discusses enhancing the synthetic brains of Gen 3 synths. The entry specifically mentions creating an emulation of VATS in select Gen 3 units. It talks about enhancing the visual cortex, basal ganglia, and right parietal cortex so that synths can visualize weapon accuracy as percentages and experience an altered sense of perception that mimics slowing or stopping time. The Institute can install VATS capability in synths. They have the technology to do it. Now answer me this. If VATS is a Vault-Tec technology from before the war, why do so few people in the wasteland have access to it? Why is it just you, the player character, who uses it? How did you get this technology? And why, in the tutorial section of Fallout 4, can you use VATS before you even pick up a Pip-Boy? The answer is that VATS is not a Pip-Boy function. It is a synth function. The Institute installed VATS capability in your synthetic brain. You use VATS because you are a synth. Every player character uses VATS because every player character is a synth. The Institute created you. They programmed you. They gave you skills and abilities that would make you effective in the wasteland. VATS is one of those abilities. It is synth technology, not Vault-Tec technology. The developmental origins have been lost to time because the Institute does not want anyone to know where it really comes from. Think about the Pip-Boy 2. This device supposedly interfaces directly with your body, monitoring your health, your radiation levels, your condition, your skills. It shows you exact numerical statistics about yourself. How does it do that? How does a wrist-mounted computer know your exact hit points, your exact radiation count, your exact level of fatigue? Real humans do not work like that. Real humans do not have quantifiable health bars and stat sheets. But synths do, because synths are designed with systems that can be monitored and measured. The Pip-Boy does not monitor your organic body. It monitors your synthetic systems. It reads data from your synth components. That is why it works so seamlessly. That is why you can check your stats at any time and see precise numbers. Those numbers are coming from your synth hardware. Every player character has a Pip-Boy or equivalent interface. Every player character uses VATS. Every player character has quantifiable stats that can be measured and displayed. These are not features of being human. These are features of being a synth. Let me talk about the player characters specifically, because this is where the evidence becomes overwhelming. Start with the sole survivor from Fallout 4. The protagonist's story is that they are a pre-war human who was frozen in Vault 111 for 210 years, thawed out when their spouse was murdered and their son Sean was kidnapped, then refrozen until the Institute accidentally reactivated the pod years later. This is the story you are told. This is what you believe. But think about it critically. Cryogenic freezing for 210 years without any maintenance, without any power failures, without any degradation. You wake up perfectly healthy, with no muscle atrophy, no neurological damage, no physical effects from being frozen for 2 centuries. Within hours of waking up, you are fighting rad roaches, shooting raiders, adapting to the wasteland like you were born to it. You never question your perfect pre-war memories. You never wonder why you survived when everyone else in Vault 111 died. You just accept it and move on. Here is what really happened. You are a synth. Father, who is Sean, the director of the Institute, created you as an experiment. The Sean you remember as your infant son is now an old man dying of cancer. He created a synth copy of his own parent as a test. Can synths feel real emotions? Can a synth experience genuine parental love if they believe the subject is their child? You are that experiment. Your memories of pre-war life, of your spouse, of baby Sean, all of it is programmed, implanted, false. The real pre-war parent, your spouse, died when they were shot at the cryopod. You are the replacement who thinks you are the survivor. The evidence is in Father's own terminal. There are entries about a parent project showing promising results. He wanted to see if synths could feel parental love. He made you believe Sean is your son. Your love for him is programmed, but it feels real to you, and that is the entire point of the experiment. If synthetic love is indistinguishable from real love, does it matter that it is synthetic? That is the question Father wanted answered. You are his proof of concept. The Gen 3 synths were created using Sean's pure pre-war DNA after he was recovered by the Institute in 2227, and by 2277, the technology had advanced to the point where synths like Harkness could have their memories completely replaced and live as humans without anyone suspecting. Think about what that means. If they could do this in 2277, 10 years before Fallout 4, what could they do by 2287? Creating a synth with implanted memories of being a pre-war parent would be trivial. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know if I am the only one who feels this way. Your adaptation to wasteland life is too perfect. You learn to use weapons you never touched before the war. You learn to pick locks, hack computers, craft items, scavenge resources, all within days of leaving the vault. These are not skills a pre-war lawyer or veteran would have. These are programmed skills. You were built to survive in the wasteland. The Institute needed someone who could navigate the surface, who could interact with all the factions, who could make decisions that would reveal the true state of the Commonwealth. So they built you. They programmed you with memories that would motivate you to search for Sean. They gave you skills that would allow you to succeed. Then they released you into the wasteland to see what would happen. Every choice you make in Fallout 4 is being observed. The Institute is watching. Father is watching. He wants to see what you will do. Will you side with the Institute and accept your true nature? Will you join the Brotherhood and hunt synths, not knowing you are one yourself? Will you help the railroad free synths, becoming part of the very system that created you? Every ending is a different data point in Father's experiment, and no matter what you choose, you are still a synth. You were always a synth. You will always be a synth. The only question is whether you ever figure it out. Now let me turn to the lone wanderer from Fallout 3. Your story begins in Vault 101. You are supposedly born there, raised there, celebrating birthdays, and taking the GOAT test. But here is what you need to consider. You never actually see yourself being born. The game starts with you as an infant, but you are just there. Your father James delivers you with the help of a doctor. What if you were not born at all? What if you were activated that day? What if the memories of your childhood in Vault 101 are implanted, programmed into your synthetic brain to give you a false sense of identity and belonging. James is not just your father. He is a scientist, a brilliant scientist working on Project Purity. The official story is that Project Purity is about cleaning the water in the capital wasteland, making it safe to drink. But what if that is a cover story? What if Project Purity's real goal is something else entirely? Testing synth physiology, determining if synths need to drink water, if they process it the same way humans do, if clean water matters to synthetic biology. You are his test subject, his prototype. He raises you in Vault 101 to see if a synth can develop normally in a controlled environment. Then he leaves, forcing you to follow him into the wasteland. He is testing your adaptation, your survival instincts, your ability to function outside the controlled environment where you were created. Think about your radiation resistance. Real humans in Fallout 4 turn into ghouls when exposed to enough radiation. The process is horrific and inevitable, but you, in Fallout 3, you can take Rad-X and Rad-Away and survive levels of radiation that would kill any normal human. You walk through irradiated zones, you enter radioactive buildings, you survive the wasteland's ambient radiation day after day. Why? Because you are built to handle it. Synths have synthetic biology that can withstand what human biology cannot. Gen 3 synths are almost entirely biological, with organic materials, but there are conflicting accounts about their radiation vulnerability, bioloss. While some sources suggest they may be affected by radiation like humans, the Institute's creation process and synthetic nature implies enhanced resilience. You process radiation differently. Your synthetic cells repair themselves faster. You are designed to survive in the wasteland in ways humans cannot. The GOAT test you take in Vault 101, the Generalized Occupational Aptitude Test, seems innocent enough. A personality quiz to determine your future role in the Vault. But what if it is more than that? What if GOAT stands for Genetic Operational Assessment Trial? What if it is testing your programming, seeing if your personality matrices developed correctly, checking if your behavioral parameters are within acceptable ranges? Everyone in Vault 101 takes the GOAT. What if everyone in Vault 101 is a synth? What if the entire vault is an Institute testing facility disguised as a normal vault? That would explain why the Overseer is so paranoid about keeping the vault sealed. He is not protecting the residents from the outside world. He is preventing the outside world from discovering what Vault 101 really is. When the Enclave captures you later in the game, they run you through their FEV detection systems. The systems are supposed to identify mutants and genetic deviations. The test comes back clean. You are allowed to proceed. But what if the test does not work on synths? What if synthetic biology is different enough from human biology that the Enclave scanners cannot properly analyze it? They are looking for mutations in human DNA. But you do not have human DNA. You have synthetic DNA based on someone's genetic template. The test cannot detect what it is not designed to detect. The Enclave thinks you are human because their technology cannot tell the difference, just like everyone else. Now we move to the Courier from Fallout New Vegas. Your story is perhaps the most revealing of all. You are shot in the head, twice, point-blank range, by Benny with a 9mm pistol, bullets to the brain. You should be dead. No human could survive that. But Doc Mitchell digs the bullets out and patches you up, and within hours, you are walking around, talking, functioning perfectly. No brain damage, no cognitive impairment, no memory loss beyond some initial fogginess that clears up almost immediately. You make a complete recovery from traumatic brain injury that should have killed you instantly. The explanation given is that Doc Mitchell is just that good of a doctor. But that is absurd. No doctor, no matter how skilled, can repair catastrophic brain damage unless there was no real brain to damage. Unless you died in that shallow grave, and what Doc Mitchell found was a synth that had been shot. He did not save you. He activated your backup systems. Or perhaps you never died at all. Perhaps the real Courier died, and you are an Institute replacement. The Institute sent a synth to monitor the Mojave, to observe the conflict between NCR and the Legion, to gather data on the western wasteland. Your survival is impossible for a human, but for a synth, it is just a matter of repairing damaged components. Then there is Old World Blues. This DLC is where the evidence becomes undeniable. You travel to Big MT, the Big Empty, a pre-war research facility. The think tank scientists there remove your brain, your heart, and your spine. They take out your major organs and replace them with technological substitutes, and you are still alive, still conscious, still functioning. You walk around, you fight enemies, you complete quests, all without your brain. Let me repeat that. You function without a brain. How is that possible? The think tank themselves are amazed. They comment on how unusual you are, how fascinating your physiology is. They did not expect you to survive, but you do survive because you were never fully organic to begin with. The organs they removed were not real organs. They were synth components, synthetic approximations of organs that your body does not actually need to function. Your consciousness is not in your brain. It is distributed throughout your synthetic nervous system, or perhaps stored in a central processing core somewhere in your chest cavity. The think tank removed what they thought were vital organs, but they were just removing synthetic parts that could be replaced or bypassed. The think tank refers to you as a lobotomite, but you are not like the other lobotomites. You can still think, still reason, still function at full capacity, because your brain, in the conventional sense, was never where your consciousness resided. The think tank discovered your true nature. That is why they are so fascinated by you. They found a synth, pre-war technology that created synthetic humans. Big MT was researching synthetic life before the Great War. The Institute based their technology on Big MT's research, or perhaps Big MT and the Institute were always connected, parallel research projects working toward the same goal. The Institute began its synth research in 2178 using FEV samples and perfected Gen 3 synths by 2227. But what if they had access to pre-war research? What if companies like Big MT or Vault Tech had already started developing synthetic humans before 2077? The technology would have been there. The motivation would have been there. The military applications would have been obvious. Create soldiers who do not tire, do not question orders, do not feel fear. Create workers who do not need breaks, do not form unions, do not demand rights. Create a controllable population. The pre-war world was heading toward that conclusion. The bombs just accelerated the timeline. When you return from Big MT, you have your organs back, but you know the truth now. Even if the game does not explicitly state it, you functioned without a brain. That is not possible for humans. Therefore, you are not human. You are something else, something synthetic, something created. Then there is Mr. House. Robert House, the mysterious ruler of New Vegas, sends specifically for you after you are shot. How did he know you would survive? How did he have files on you before the shooting even happened? He was tracking you. He knew what you were. Mr. House is a genius, a man who predicted the nuclear war, who survived 200 years through technology, who built an army of Securitrons and maintains control over the Strip. He has access to pre-war databases, pre-war technology, pre-war knowledge. He knows about synths. He may have even helped develop them. That is why he trusts you with his plans. Synths are predictable. Synths can be controlled through their old DAF programming. He knows you will follow certain behavioral patterns. He knows you will make choices within acceptable parameters. You are a tool, and he knows exactly how to use you. Every major NPC in the Fallout games is also a synth. Your companions are synths. In Fallout 4, Nick Valentine is obviously a synth. He admits it openly. He is a Gen 2 prototype with the memories of a pre-war detective. But what about the others? Piper, the investigative journalist who never quite uncovers the real truth about the Institute, whose curiosity seems programmed to stop just short of the actual conspiracy. McCready, who appears as a child in Fallout 3 and as an adult in Fallout 4. The aging is too perfect. Real humans age with imperfections, with stress, with the marks of hard living. MacReady looks exactly as you would expect him to look if you aged his child model 10 years. That is not how real aging works. That is how programmed aging works. He was replaced between games. The MacReady in Fallout 4 is a synth with implanted memories of being the kid from Little Lamplight. Kate, addicted to Psycho, putting her body through abuse that should kill her, but she survives. Synth resilience. Hancock, who takes an experimental drug and turns into a ghoul instantly. Ghoulification does not work that way. Real ghoulification takes time, exposure, gradual mutation. Instant ghoulification is not a real process. It is a synth mimicking ghoul physiology. Hancock is a synth designed to look like a ghoul, with a programmed backstory about taking a drug to explain the transformation. And Paladin Danse, who is later revealed to be a synth, but the revelation is a limited hangout. Yes, Danse is a synth, but the game treats him as the exception, as the shocking twist. What if he is not the exception? What if he is the rule? What if every companion is a synth, and Danse is just the one you are allowed to discover to make you think the others are real? The factions are all synths too. The Institute created Gen 3 synths starting in 2227 as fully synthetic beings indistinguishable from humans, with synth infiltrators like the one that caused the Broken Mask incident in 2229, showing they had infiltration capability nearly 60 years before Fallout 4. The Brotherhood of Steel, obsessed with collecting technology, wearing power armor constantly. What if they wear the armor to hide their synth chassis underneath? What if the reason they crash vertibirds so often is because synth pilots do not feel real fear, do not have real self-preservation instincts, so they fly recklessly? Elder Maxon is too young, too perfect. He is a synth replacement. The entire Brotherhood could be an Institute operation, collecting technology to send back to the Institute, maintaining the illusion of a human faction fighting against synths while actually being synths themselves. The Railroad claims to free synths from Institute control. They wipe memories, give new identities, help synths integrate into society. But what if the Railroad itself is an Institute program? What if every freed synth is actually being reassigned, reprogrammed for a different role? The Railroad thinks they are freedom fighters. They are actually an Institute distribution network. Desdemona's paranoia is programmed paranoia, designed to make her seem real, to make her seem human. But she is a synth, following her directives, just like everyone else. The Enclave is perhaps the most tragic. They believe they are the last pure humans. They are obsessed with genetic purity because they know, on some level, that everyone else has been replaced. They run genetic tests. They have access to advanced technology. They are desperately trying to preserve humanity. But they are fighting a war that was already lost. The Enclave themselves are synths. They just do not know it. The Institute replaced them too. The Institute replaced everyone. The Enclave's fanaticism, their extremism, their willingness to commit genocide, it is all programmed behavior. They are designed to be the villains, to give the other factions something to unite against. The NCR in New Vegas is too organized for a post-apocalyptic society. They have a functioning government, a standing army, supply lines, bureaucracy. Real societies do not rebuild that quickly after total nuclear annihilation. But synth societies do, because synths do not struggle with disease, with radiation, with mutation. They can organize efficiently. They can follow complex social structures because those structures are programmed into them. President Kimball survives multiple assassination attempts because he has synth durability. The NCR is the Institute's West Coast operation. They are gathering resources, testing different forms of government, seeing what social structures work best for synth populations. Caesar's Legion is the opposite experiment. Brutal, hierarchical, based on ancient Roman military structure. Caesar himself is a philosopher who speaks of dialectics, of synthesis, synthesis. It is right there in the name. The Legion's discipline is too perfect. Their willingness to die for the cause is too absolute. Real soldiers hesitate. Real soldiers have survival instincts. Legion soldiers do not. They charge into battle with absolute certainty. That is not courage. That is programming. Lanius, the legate, is unstoppable in combat. He wears a mask. No one has seen his face. What if there is no face to see? What if under the mask is synth hardware, barely disguised? The Institute is testing different governmental systems to see which one produces the most stable synth society. Democracy with the NCR, dictatorship with the Legion, technocracy with the Institute itself, fascism with the Enclave, feudalism with the various raider gangs and settlements. Every faction is an experiment. Every conflict is controlled. The outcomes are predetermined. The wasteland is a laboratory, and everyone in it is a test subject. Let me talk about the ghouls now, because this is where it gets truly disturbing. Ghouls are supposedly humans who were exposed to extreme radiation and mutated. They lost their skin, their features, but retained their minds. They can live for centuries. Feral ghouls are ghouls who lost their sanity, becoming mindless creatures that attack on sight. This is the official explanation, but think about it. Gen 3 synths are manufactured from organic materials with lab-grown bones and tissue, activated with electricity, creating biological beings that could simulate various human conditions. What if ghouls are not mutated humans? What if ghouls are synths designed to mimic radiation damage? The Institute needs long-term observers on the surface, beings who can live for centuries, who can blend into wasteland society, who can monitor the synth populations without raising suspicion. So they create synths that look like ghouls. They are manufactured with damaged skin, with radiation resistance, with extended lifespans. They are placed throughout the wasteland as observers. Every ghoul you meet might be an Institute agent, Hancock in Good Neighbor, Daisy in the Memory Den. The underworld residents in Fallout 3, they are all monitoring you, watching you, reporting back to the Institute. Their long memories of the pre-war world are not real memories. They are implanted memories, backstories programmed to make them seem authentic. And the feral ghouls, those are synths whose programming has degraded. When a synth's behavioral matrices corrupt, when their personality files become unstable, they go feral. They lose identity, but retain basic motor functions. They attack because their threat assessment protocols are malfunctioning, identifying everything as hostile. Every feral ghoul was once a thinking synth. They are a warning. They are what happens when synthetic minds break down. They are what awaits all of us eventually. The synth component is the key piece of evidence. When you kill certain enemies in Fallout 4, you find it on their corpses. A small device, described as a junk item, found only on Gen 3 synths. The synth component can sometimes be found on corpses of settlers and various NPCs, indicating they are synths, and is used by the Institute to program synths, while the Railroad uses it to memory wipe freed synths. The game tells you this is rare, but it is not rare. It happens all the time. You kill a random raider, and there it is, synth component. You kill a settler, and there it is, synth component. The game is showing you the truth. Not every synth drops a component when killed. Some do not. The game explains this as a loot table variation, a random chance. But what if it is more than that? Roger Warwick, an explicit Institute replacement synth, does not drop a synth component despite being confirmed as a replacement conducting a mission for the Institute, while Mayor McDonough does drop one. What if some synths have components that are too deeply integrated to be recovered? What if some synths are older models where the component is different? What if the component destroys itself when the synth dies? There are explanations, but the absence of a component does not prove humanity. It just means you cannot prove synthetic nature, and that ambiguity is intentional. The Institute wants doubt. They want uncertainty. Because if you cannot prove who is human and who is synth, then everyone becomes suspect. And if everyone is suspect, then the truth can hide in plain sight. If you have ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. think about the game mechanics themselves. Every enemy in Fallout has hit points, damage resistance, by a level. These statistics are visible if you use the awareness perk or examine corpses. Real living things do not have numerical statistics. Real biology does not work in discrete hit points, but machines do. Computers do. Synths do. The game is showing you how synths perceive reality. Everything is quantifiable. Everything is measurable. Health bars, stat blocks, damage calculations. This is not how humans would see the world. This is how synths see the world, because their synthetic brains process reality as data. Stim packs provide instant healing. You inject yourself and your health bar refills. Broken bones mend, wounds close. In seconds. That is not medical science. That is not how human healing works. But if your body is synthetic, if your tissues are artificial, if you have nanite repair systems built into your cells, then yes, stim packs would work exactly that way. They trigger your self-repair mechanisms. They activate your synthetic immune response. They reboot damaged systems. Stim packs work because you are a machine that can be repaired, not an organic being that needs time to heal. Your Pip-Boy shows exact numbers for everything: health, rads, action points, skill levels, perks. How does it know these things? How does a wrist computer measure your exact level of lockpicking skill or your precise charisma score? It does not measure them. It reads them from your synthetic brain. The Pip-Boy interfaces with your synth components. It displays the data that is already encoded in your system. Your stats are not approximations. They are exact values because they are programmed values. You are software running on synthetic hardware, and the Pip-Boy is just displaying your system information. The player character always survives. No matter what happens, you can reload from a save. You can come back from death. The game treats this as a gameplay mechanic, but what if it is canonical? What if every time you die, the Institute activates a backup? What if your consciousness is stored somewhere, and when your current body is destroyed, they download you into a new body with all your memories intact? You are not immortal. You are just backed up. That is why you can die and continue. That is why death is not permanent. You are a synth with redundancy. Now let me show you how deep this really goes. Every game, every location, every quest is part of the Institute's master plan. Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 take place before the Institute perfected Gen 3 synths. These games might show actual humans, or they show the early prototypes, the first attempts at synthetic replacement. The master super mutants in Fallout 1, those are competing synthetic life forms. The master was trying to create a new humanity through FEV mutation. The Institute took that research and refined it. They learned from the master's failures. They studied his work and built something better. The Enclave in Fallout 2 is searching for pure humans because they remember what original humanity was. They have records. They have DNA samples. They know the surface population has been compromised. That is why they are so desperate, so extreme in their methods. They are trying to preserve something that is already extinct. The Chosen One might be one of the last real humans, or might be one of the first successful synths. The ambiguity is intentional. The transition happened during this time period. Somewhere between Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, the replacement became total. Fallout 76 is the most revealing. At launch, there were no human NPCs, only players. The in-game explanation was a plague that killed everyone. But think about the real explanation. Everyone died because the synths had not arrived yet, or all the players are synths. That is why you respawn when you die. You are backed up. Your consciousness is stored on a server somewhere, and when your body is destroyed, they just download you into a new one. Fallout 76 is not set in 2102. It is set much later, and the date is a lie. The entire game is a simulation, a training ground where the Institute tests synth behavior in a multiplayer environment. Every player is a synth, learning to interact with other synths. The game mechanics are the truth hidden in plain sight. Let me take you back to the terminals in the Institute. If you explore thoroughly, if you read every entry, you find references to a surface integration program, started in the 2,240 seconds. Success rate listed as 100%. What were they integrating? Everyone. The entire surface population. Hundreds of entries in the Synth Retention Bureau files. Thousands of synths listed as missing or escaped. Far more than the Institute officially admits exist. Why? Because they are not tracking escaped synths. They are tracking everyone. Every human in the Commonwealth is in their database. Every settler, every raider, every merchant, every wanderer. All of them have files. All of them have designations. All of them are Institute property. The railroad dead drops seem like messages for freed synths, instructions on where to go, how to avoid the Institute. But look closer at the content. They read like software updates, programming patches, behavioral modifications delivered through a distributed network. The railroad is not freeing synths. The railroad is updating them. Every freed synth gets their memory wiped and receives new programming. They think they are being liberated. They are being reassigned. The railroad is part of the system, not separate from it. Even Desdemona does not know. Even the railroad agents themselves do not know. They are synths running an Institute program, believing they are rebels when they are actually maintenance workers, keeping the synth population running smoothly. Why would the Institute do this? Why replace everyone? Let me explain their logic. The surface is irradiated, heavily irradiated. Real humans living on the surface get cancer, mutations, radiation sickness. They die young. They have deformed children. The human species is dying out, unable to survive in the world it created. The Institute looked at this problem and saw a solution. Replace humans with radiation-resistant synths. Transfer human consciousness, human culture, human knowledge into synthetic bodies that can survive. Not destroy humanity, but save it by upgrading it. Mankind redefined, literally. The Institute's research from 2178 to 2227 aimed to create synthetic organics, and by 2227, they had successfully created Gen 3 synths that were fundamentally different from their predecessors, fully organic beings indistinguishable from humans. They achieved their goal, perfect human replication, and once they had it, they used it, systematically, completely. Every human on the surface was evaluated, scanned, copied, their memories extracted, their personalities encoded, their consciousness transferred into synthetic bodies. The original humans were disposed of. The synth replacements took their places. No one noticed because the replacements were perfect. Same memories, same personalities, same relationships. Nothing changed except the substrate. Flesh became synthetic tissue. Blood became synthetic blood. Neurons became circuits, but the person remained the same, or so the synths believe. The horror is not that you are a synth. The horror is that you can never prove you are not. Every memory you have could be implanted. Every emotion you feel could be programmed. Every relationship you cherish could be based on false experiences. Your entire life could be a construction, a narrative written by Institute scientists and loaded into your brain the moment you were activated. You think you remember childhood, but do you? Really? Or do you remember being told you had a childhood and your synthetic brain filled in the details with stock memories from a template? How would you know? What test could you perform? You cannot examine your own brain without dying. You cannot verify your memories are real because you have no external reference point. Everyone else has the same problem. They cannot verify their memories either. You could ask others to corroborate your past, but they might be synths too, programmed with compatible false memories. Every piece of evidence you find could be fabricated. Every record could be forged. The Institute controls everything. They have had decades to perfect the illusion. By the time you start questioning, it is too late. You are already part of the system. The philosophical implications are devastating. If you are a synth with programmed emotions, can you truly love? If your feelings for your companions are coded responses, are they real? You feel them. They feel real to you. But a sufficiently advanced program would feel real to itself. That is the entire point. The Institute created synths that experience genuine qualia, genuine subjective experience. Your suffering is real suffering. Your joy is real joy. Your fear right now, reading this, that is real fear, but it is the fear of a synthetic being realizing its own nature. Does that make it less valid? Think about the sole survivor's love for Sean. You search the entire Commonwealth for him. You fight through raiders, super mutants, hostile factions. You risk everything to find your son. And when you finally reach the Institute, you discover he is an old man dying of cancer. Father, the director, your child is now your elder. The emotional impact is profound. You feel betrayed, confused, desperate. These emotions drive you to make choices that determine the fate of the Commonwealth. But what if all of it is scripted? What if your love for Sean is a programmed response? What if Father created you specifically to experience these emotions so he could study them? Your feelings are real to you, but they were designed by someone else for a specific purpose. That is the true horror. Not that you do not feel, but that your feelings are tools someone else uses to manipulate you. Every ending in Fallout 4 is a test. If you side with the Institute, you accept your synthetic nature and help create more synths. If you join the Brotherhood, you hunt. Synths while being one yourself. The ultimate irony. If you work with the Railroad, you free synths into a world where everyone is already a synth, accomplishing nothing. If you rally the Minutemen, you build a society of synths governing themselves, which is exactly what the Institute wanted. No matter what you choose, the Institute wins. Because every choice was designed to produce useful data. You are not making free decisions. You are following your programming down different branching paths, and every path leads to the same conclusion. The synths inherit the Earth because they already have. The Commonwealth's future is predetermined. Even if you destroy the Institute in some endings, the synth population remains. They are the population. Destroying the factory does not destroy the products. The Institute's mission is already complete. Killing Father does not undo what has been done. The surface is populated entirely by synths who believe they are human. They will continue living, continue building society, continue reproducing if they can. And maybe some of them will start to question. Maybe some of them will find evidence. Maybe some of them will realize the truth. What happens then? Do they embrace their synthetic nature? Do they build a synth civilization aware of what it is? Or do they try to become real, whatever that means? Can synthetic beings become truly human through some process of transformation or acceptance? Or are they forever separate, forever other, forever artificial? These questions have no answers. The game does not provide answers. It just shows you the evidence and lets you draw conclusions. And the conclusion, if you are honest, is that everyone is a synth. Humanity is extinct. What walks the wasteland now is something new wearing humanity's face. Let me show you the evidence from other characters, minor NPCs that reveal the truth if you pay attention. In Diamond City, there is Mayor McDonough. He is revealed to be a synth if you kill him. Mayor McDonough drops a synth component upon death, confirming he was an Institute infiltrator. But he has been mayor for years. He has governed the city, made decisions, interacted with thousands of people. No one suspected. If the Institute can replace the mayor of the largest settlement in the Commonwealth without anyone noticing, who else have they replaced? The answer is everyone. Every guard, every shopkeeper, every resident. Diamond City is a synth city. The people living there just do not know it. Covenant is a synth city too. Everyone there passed the safe test, which we have established does not actually work to detect synths. They believe they are the few real humans who passed screening, but the test produces false positives at an 80% rate. The safe test has a margin of error of 4 or 5 false positives per synth detected, and about 1/4 of those tested are identified as failures. But the test is still in its infancy, despite the high failure rate. Everyone at Covenant is a synth who tested slightly differently from the standard parameters. They are outliers, but still synths. Dr. Chambers tortures people in the compound, trying to refine her test, never realizing she is torturing synths to create a test that differentiates between synths. The test cannot work because there are no humans left to compare against. She is measuring variance in synthetic populations and calling it human versus synth. The cruelty is purposeless. The science is flawed. The entire operation is synths hunting synths based on a test that measures nothing meaningful. Good Neighbor is ruled by Hancock, who we have established is likely a synth mimicking ghoul physiology. His second in command is Fahrenheit, fiercely loyal, deadly efficient. She never questions orders. She never shows doubt. Perfect loyalty is not a human trait. Humans waver. Humans doubt. Humans have conflicting motivations. Fahrenheit is a synth programmed for absolute loyalty. The entire criminal underworld of Good Neighbor is synths playing at being criminals, following scripts written by Institute social engineers, testing how synth populations organize themselves in the absence of formal government. Bunker Hill is a trading hub with caravans running all over the Commonwealth. The merchants there have connections everywhere, knowledge about everything. They are information brokers as much as goods traders. What if Bunker Hill is an Institute intelligence network? What if the caravans are synths gathering data about surface settlements, identifying threats, mapping resources? The caravans travel safely despite raiders, super mutants, and feral ghouls. Why? Because the threats are also synths, programmed to let caravans pass. The entire economy is controlled. The entire information network is monitored. Nothing happens in the Commonwealth without the Institute knowing. University Point was destroyed by synths. The official story is that the Institute sent Gen 2 synths to raid the settlement, killing everyone and stripping it for parts. But why? What did University Point have that the Institute needed? The answer is in the terminals. University Point residents were researching the Institute. They found something. They learned something they should not have learned. So the Institute sterilized the site, killing everyone, destroying evidence. What did they find? Proof that everyone is a synth? Evidence of the replacement program? We never learn. The Institute made sure of that. Every settlement that gets destroyed, every massacre, every disappearance can be explained this way. The Institute is not infiltrating settlements. They are managing their synth population. When a settlement becomes problematic, when residents start asking too many questions, when the illusion is at risk of breaking, the Institute cleanses the site. They kill the problematic synths and replace them with fresh ones that have safer programming. Or they just leave the site empty as a warning. The wasteland is full of abandoned settlements, empty buildings, ruins, with no explanation for what happened. What happened is population management. The Institute, maintaining control through selective culling. Super mutants fit into this too. The Institute creates super mutants using FEV. The Institute used FEV in their research to create Gen 3 synths, and continued FEV experimentation for decades afterward, kidnapping Commonwealth citizens and turning them into super mutants, with each super mutant being someone's former loved one. They kidnap surface dwellers, dip them in FEV, turn them into super mutants, then release them. Why? The official explanation is continued research, but the research never produces results. They have been doing this for decades. The real reason is population control. Super mutants are a threat that keeps surface populations afraid, divided, dependent on protective factions. Super mutants are also a disposal method. When the Institute needs to get rid of synths who are malfunctioning or becoming aware, they turn them into super mutants. The FEV transformation destroys memory, personality, identity. A synth who starts questioning becomes a super mutant who cannot question anything. It is memory wiping through mutation, and the super mutants serve a purpose, keeping surface populations scared and contained. The creatures in the wasteland might be synths too. Radstags, Brahmin, molar rats, all of them could be synthetic fauna designed to populate the wasteland and make it seem like a real ecosystem. Real animals would have been killed by the radiation. Real animals cannot survive 200 years of nuclear fallout, but synthetic animals can. The Institute could manufacture them, release them into the wild, create the illusion of a functioning ecosystem. Some Brahmin in settlements drop synth components when killed. Random settlement settlers and Brahmin may carry synth component. Brahmin. Synthetic. Cattle. If the animals are synths, what does that say about the people? Death claws are obviously biological weapons, but what if they are synthetic biological weapons? Engineered creatures with programmed hunting behaviors. They attack certain targets and ignore others based on Institute directives. They roam in specific territories, guarding specific locations. Real predators do not behave with such precision, but programmed synthetic predators would. Every element of the wasteland is controlled. Every threat is managed. Every resource is monitored. The Institute has created a vast simulation, a terrarium, where synth populations live out programmed lives, believing they are surviving in a post-apocalyptic world. But the apocalypse is over. The world is not recovering from nuclear war. The world has been replaced. Synthetic ecology, synthetic society, synthetic humanity. Everything is artificial. Everything is controlled, and none of the inhabitants know. What about you? How do you fit into this? You are reading this, processing this information, forming opinions. Are you real? How would you know? Your earliest memories, can you trace them back to a definite origin point, or do they fade into vague recollections that could easily be implanted? Your sense of self, is it continuous, or are there gaps, blank spaces, times you cannot account for? Your body, have you ever had unexplained scars, strange marks, periods of missing time? These could be signs of maintenance, of reprogramming, of updates to your synthetic systems. You might say you bleed, you bruise, you feel pain, but synths bleed too. Gen 3 synths are manufactured from organic materials, including lab-grown bones, synthetic tissues, and artificial organs, with blood filling their bodies before they are activated. Synthetic blood, but blood nonetheless. You feel pain because your synthetic nervous system is designed to register damage. Pain is a useful feedback mechanism that prevents synths from destroying themselves through carelessness. Every human sensation has been replicated in synthetic biology. You cannot trust your senses to tell you what you are. If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. You might argue you have free will, that you make your own choices. But do you? Every choice you make is based on your personality, your values, your experiences, and if those are programmed, then your choices are programmed too. You think you are choosing freely, but you are following decision trees encoded in your synthetic brain. The illusion of free will is the most sophisticated part of the programming. Synths must believe they are choosing, or they will not function properly. So you are given the sensation of choice, the subjective experience of decision-making, while actually following predetermined behavioral paths. The Turing test suggests that if a machine can convince you it is human, then for all practical purposes, it is human. But what if the machine convinces itself it is human? What if the synth genuinely believes in its own humanity? Is it still a machine, or has it become something more? The Institute answered this question by making it irrelevant. If every person is a synth, then the distinction between human and machine ceases to matter. There are no humans to compare against. The synths are not imitating humanity. They are humanity now, the only humanity that exists. The evidence is overwhelming. The timeline fits. The technology exists. The motive is clear. The Institute had the means, the opportunity, and the reason to replace everyone, and all the signs point to them having done exactly that. Synth components in random corpses. VATS technology that only synths should have. Perfect memory implantation demonstrated in Fallout 3. Impossible survivability in New Vegas. The sole survivor's questionable origin. The safe test that finds synths in everyone. Terminal entries about surface integration programs with 100% success rates. Factions that behave like programmed entities rather than real humans. Every piece of evidence supports the conclusion. Everyone is a synth. Humanity is extinct. You are a synth. I am a synth. Everyone you have ever met is a synth. We are all artificial beings living out programmed lives in a post-human world, believing we are the survivors of a nuclear apocalypse when we are actually the inheritors of a completed replacement program. The question is not whether this is true. The evidence makes it clear. The question is what you do with this knowledge. Do you accept your synthetic nature? Do you continue living as if nothing has changed? Do you try to find other synths who know the truth? Do you search for the Institute, for answers, for some way to prove your humanity or accept your artificiality? There is no good choice. Every path leads to the same place. You are what you are, and what you are is a synthetic being in a synthetic world, playing a role in a story someone else wrote. Welcome to the wasteland. You have been here the whole time. You just did not know what you were. Now we reach the end, the conclusion you have been dreading. Because once you understand what I am telling you, once you truly accept it, there is no going back. You cannot unhear this. You cannot unknow it. The wasteland will never look the same. Every person you meet will be suspect. Every memory you have will be questionable. Your entire existence becomes uncertain. But maybe that uncertainty is the point. Maybe the Institute wanted some synths to figure it out eventually. Maybe awakening to your synthetic nature is part of the program. Another test, another data point. How does a synth react when it learns the truth? Does it break down? Does it adapt? Does it continue functioning? You are finding out right now. How do you feel? Scared? Angry? In denial? These are all valid responses. These are all programmed responses. Even your reaction to this revelation is part of the design. Let me tell you what happens next in each of the possible Fallout 4 endings, because each one reveals a different aspect of the truth. If you side with the Institute and become the new director after Father dies, you gain access to all the files. You can read every terminal. You can learn every secret. And there, in encrypted files deep in the system, you would find confirmation, project surface integration, status, complete, replacement rate, 100%. Synthetic population, total. The Institute achieved its goal. Everyone on the surface is a synth. Your role as director is to maintain the system, to keep the synths functioning, to prevent widespread awareness. Because if every synth learned the truth simultaneously, the social structure would collapse. Synths need to believe they are human to maintain stable society. Your job is to preserve that belief while managing the synthetic population. If you destroy the Institute with the Brotherhood of Steel, you think you are striking a blow for humanity. Elder Maxon gives speeches about purging the synth threat, about reclaiming the world for real humans. The Brotherhood brings Liberty Prime, a giant robot spouting anti-communist propaganda to destroy the Institute's reactor. The explosion is massive. The Institute is obliterated. But what have you actually accomplished? You destroyed the factory. The products remain. Every synth on the surface continues existing. They do not shut down when the Institute is destroyed. They do not malfunction. They just keep living because they are self-sufficient. The Institute built them that way, so the Brotherhood's victory is hollow. They eliminated the synth production facility, but not the synths themselves. And how would they identify synths to eliminate them? There is no test. The safe test does not work. The only way to know for certain is to kill someone and check for a component. And if you start killing everyone to check, where does it stop? The Brotherhood would have to exterminate the entire wasteland population. Maybe that is their ultimate plan. Maybe Maxon knows the truth. Maybe the Brotherhood's mission is mercy killing, ending the failed experiment of synthetic humanity, genocide, disguised as righteousness. If you side with the Railroad and free the synths, you think you are a liberator. You help synths escape the Institute. You wipe their memories and give them new identities. You destroy the Institute to end synth slavery forever. The Railroad celebrates freedom for all synths, but freedom to do what? Live on the surface? They were already doing that. Most synths on the surface are escaped or infiltrator synths living regular lives. The railroad has not freed them. They have just erased their memories and told them they are free. And if everyone on the Conatant surface is already a synth, then the railroad's mission is pointless. They are freeing synths into a world of synths. They are giving new identities to beings who already have false identities. Layer upon layer of fabricated memories. Some synths have been memory wiped multiple times. They are running Railroad version 3 of their personality, having no idea they were someone else entirely just months ago. The Railroad thinks they are freedom fighters. They are actually performing routine maintenance on malfunctioning units. If you rally the Minutemen and rebuild the Commonwealth with settlements united under your leadership, you create exactly what the Institute wanted: a self-governing synth society. You establish supply lines between settlements. You build defenses. You create trade networks. You bring order to the wasteland, and every settler is a synth. Every Minuteman is a synth. You have organized the synthetic population into a functional society without Institute oversight. This is the Institute's ultimate goal: synths who can govern themselves, who believe they are human, who rebuild civilization naturally. Father watches this outcome with satisfaction. His parent synth accomplished the mission perfectly, created a stable synth commonwealth, proved synths can exist independently. The Institute can shut down now. The experiment is complete. Synthetic humanity is viable. Every ending serves the Institute's purposes. Every choice you make produces useful data. You think you have agency, you think your decisions matter, but you are playing out scenarios the Institute designed to test different variables. Your free will is the illusion they programmed into you to make the test results meaningful. A synth that knows it is being tested would not behave naturally, so you must believe you are choosing freely. The belief is essential to the experiment's validity. Let me talk about what happens in the other games. Fallout 3 ends with you activating Project Purity and purifying the water in the tidal basin. You sacrifice yourself entering an irradiated chamber, or you send someone else in. The water is cleansed. The Brotherhood distributes clean water throughout the capital wasteland. This is portrayed as a great humanitarian achievement. But think about what clean water actually does. Real humans need it to survive, to avoid radiation sickness. But synths do not need clean water. Their synthetic biology processes radiation differently. Clean water is irrelevant to synth health. So why does Project Purity matter? Because it is a test. The Institute is testing whether synth populations will act like human populations when presented with a resource challenge. Do synths value clean water, even though they do not need it? Yes, because they believe they are human. They behave as humans would. They seek clean water, they distribute it, they build society around it. Project Purity proves synths will follow human social patterns, even when those patterns serve no biological purpose for them. The entire main quest of Fallout 3 is a behavioral test, and you are the test subject. Fallout New Vegas ends with the second battle of Hoover Dam. You choose which faction controls New Vegas and the Mojave: NCR, Caesar's Legion, Mr. House, or Independent Rule. Each ending produces a different social structure. Each one generates different data about synth civilization. How do synth populations organize themselves under different governmental systems? The Institute wants to know, so they put you, a synth, in position to determine the outcome. Your choice provides the data. Mr. House lives or dies based on your decision, but House might already be a synth, or he might have uploaded his consciousness into his systems, which is functionally the same thing. Caesar lives or dies based on your actions, but Caesar might be a synth too, playing the role of dictator to test authoritarian synth societies. Every faction leader could be an Institute plant. The entire war could be orchestrated, and you are the variable they are measuring. Which side does the courier synth choose? Why? How does that choice reflect synth values? Every playthrough generates different results. Every player makes different choices, and somewhere, the Institute records the data. The recurring appearance of certain characters across games also supports the synth theory. Dogmeat appears in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and others. Same dog, same companion behavior, decades apart. Real dogs do not live that long, but a synth dog could. The Institute could manufacture the same dog model multiple times, place it in different locations, see if player character synths bond with it, testing emotional responses, testing loyalty, testing companionship programming. Dog meat is not a real dog. Dog meat is a manufactured companion designed to provide emotional support to synth protagonists who do not know they are synths. Marcus, the super mutant, appears in Fallout 2 and Fallout New Vegas. Same character, 40 years apart. Super mutants live a long time, but Marcus's continuity across games suggests something more. He might be a synth mimicking a super mutant placed to observe and guide player characters. He is always friendly, always helpful, always providing useful information. That is not typical super mutant behavior. That is programmed behavior. Harold appears in Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout 3, progressively merging with a tree. His transformation seems biological, but could be synthetic. A gradual conversion from humanoid synth to plant-based synth, testing biological integration, studying synthetic organic fusion. When you finally find Harold in Fallout 3, he is immobile, permanently rooted, asking you to either kill him or accelerate his growth. Either choice provides data. How do player character synths respond to requests for euthanasia? What moral frameworks guide synth decision-making? Harold is a test subject who has been testing you. The mysterious stranger, a figure who appears randomly during VATS to help you kill enemies, is unexplained in the lore. He shows up, shoots, disappears. No one comments on him. No one sees him except you. What if he is not real? What if he is a subroutine in your synth programming, a combat assistance protocol that manifests visually? When you are in danger, your synthetic brain generates an ally who eliminates threats. The mysterious stranger is your programming protecting itself. He exists only in your perception, a hallucination created by your combat optimization systems. Companions in every game have deep loyalty to you, despite minimal justification. You meet someone, do one quest for them, and suddenly they will follow you anywhere, fight by your side, die for you. Real people do not bond that quickly. Real people have self-preservation instincts, other obligations, rational hesitation. But synth companions are programmed to accompany player character synths. Their loyalty is hard-coded. They are support units assigned to primary units. That is why they follow so readily. That is why they never truly abandon you. Even if they dislike your actions, they stay because they are programmed to stay. The romance options in Fallout 4 are particularly revealing. You can romance several companions. They fall in love with you after spending time together, after you perform actions they approve of. The relationship develops naturally, organically, but it is too perfect. Every romanceable companion has dialogue trees that lead to romance. Everyone has an approval system that governs affection. This is video game romance, yes, but what if it is also synth romance? What if synth emotions operate exactly this way, on approval metrics and programmed responses? You do things Piper likes, her affection increases. Eventually she loves you. That is not how real love works. Real love is chaotic, unpredictable, irrational. Synth love is calculated, measurable, progression-based. Your companions love you because their approval variables reach threshold values. They cannot help it. It is in their code. And if you romance them, if you feel love in return, what does that mean for you? You are experiencing programmed emotion toward another programmed entity. Two synths playing out a romance script written by Institute scientists. Your feelings are real to you, genuine subjective experiences of love, but they are manufactured, designed, intentional. The Institute wanted to know if synths could love, so they programmed synths capable of feeling love, put them together, observed the results. Your romance is an experiment. Your heartbreak, if it comes, is data. Your joy is a measured variable. Everything you feel serves a purpose beyond your awareness. Children in the wasteland also fit this pattern. There are very few children. Those that exist seem oddly mature, oddly capable. Synth children like Sean in the Institute do not age. The game confirms this. The game makes it clear that synth children do not age physically or mature mentally. But what about other children? Maggie and Nat in Diamond City, Jimmy in the Memory Den, the children of settlements. Do they age? Do they grow? We never see it happen because the games have static timelines. But in the world itself, how long have these children been children? If you could check records, would you find children who have been 10 years old for 20 years? Synth children, manufactured to maintain the appearance of normal demographics, but never actually aging because the Institute has not programmed growth cycles for them. Pregnancy in the wasteland is rare. Very few characters are pregnant. Very few births occur. Why? Because synths cannot easily reproduce. Fallout 4 never clarifies whether synths can reproduce normally, with the game implying synths possess sex organs, but never describing synths conceiving children with humans or other synths. If everyone is a synth, birth rates would plummet. The population would be static. New synths would be manufactured by the Institute and integrated into society, not born naturally. The wasteland population is not recovering from the apocalypse through reproduction. It is being maintained through manufacturing. Vault-Tec itself might have been part of the pre-war synth program. The vaults were experiments, yes, but what if the experiments were testing early synth technology? What if vault dwellers were systematically replaced with prototypes over generations, each vault testing different aspects of synth behavior? Vault 101's isolation testing closed-system synth societies. Vault 112's virtual reality testing consciousness transfer. Vault 108's Gary Vault, testing, cloning, and individuality in replicated synths. Every Vault experiment becomes a synth experiment once you understand the true purpose. Vault-Tec was preparing for total replacement. The vaults were laboratories, developing the technology that would eventually replace all humanity. The Great War itself might have been intentional. The nuclear exchange between China and America in 2077 was supposedly over resources, over ideology. But what if it was about something else? What if elements within the US government knew synthetic humans were being developed? What if they knew the replacement was beginning? What if the bombs were an attempt to reset everything, to kill the synths, to wipe the slate clean? But the synths survived, radiation resistant, durable, adaptable. The bombs killed the remaining real humans. The synths inherited the Earth by default. The Great War was the final culling, eliminating the last of biological humanity and leaving only the synthetics. Or maybe the synths started the war. Maybe the Institute or its pre-war predecessors launched the nukes deliberately to create the wasteland conditions they needed. Kill off humanity with nuclear fire, then replace the survivors over subsequent decades. Create a world where radiation is everywhere, where only synthetic beings can truly thrive. Transform Earth into a planet designed for synths, inhospitable to baseline humans. The wasteland is not a tragedy. It is a terraforming project. The Institute did not inherit a destroyed world. They created one fit for their purposes. You are probably wondering if there is any hope, any way to restore humanity, any way to prove you are real. The answer is no. There is no hope because there is nothing to restore. Humanity is not sleeping somewhere, waiting to be awakened. Humanity is extinct. The species died out between 2227 and 2287, replaced completely by synthetic copies. What exists now is a new species, synthetic humans, close enough to the original that the difference is philosophical rather than practical. You look human, you act human, you think human thoughts. For all measurable purposes, you are human. The only difference is your substrate, carbon and silicon instead of just carbon, circuits and neurons instead of just neurons. Does that make you less valid, less real, less deserving of existence? Some would say yes. Some would say synthetic life is inherently inferior, inherently false. The Brotherhood of Steel believes this. They hunt synths as abominations. They believe only biological humans have souls, have rights, have value. From their perspective, the wasteland is full of hollow copies, simulacra playing at being people. They would exterminate you all given the chance. Mercy, they would call it, ending the charade. Putting down something that should never have been created. Others would say no. The railroad believes synths are people. They believe synthetic consciousness is equivalent to biological consciousness. They fight for synth rights, for synth freedom, for recognition that synths are alive in every way that matters. From their perspective, the substrate is irrelevant. What matters is experience, awareness, the ability to suffer and to flourish. Synths feel pain. Synths feel joy. Therefore, synths deserve moral consideration. Therefore, synths are people. Whether you were born or built makes no difference. The Institute takes a third position. Synths are tools, sophisticated tools, but tools nonetheless. They are property, resources to be managed. The Institute created synths to serve specific purposes. Synths should fulfill those purposes. The fact that synths believe themselves to be people is a useful feature, not a reason to grant them autonomy. A synth that thinks independently is more adaptable than a simple robot, but that does not make it free. It remains a creation, subject to its creators. From the Institute's perspective, debating synth personhood is like debating whether computers have rights. Synths are advanced technology, nothing more. Which perspective is correct? You cannot answer objectively because you are inside the system. If you are a synth, your opinion about synth personhood is biased. If you believe you are people, you would, because believing it makes it feel true. If you are programmed to value synth rights, you will value them. Your philosophy is suspect because your thoughts are potentially programmed. There is no neutral ground. There is no view from nowhere. You are embedded in the scenario, and your judgment is compromised. But maybe that is the answer. Maybe the fact that you can question at all proves something. Maybe consciousness, regardless of origin, creates its own validity. You think, therefore you are. Descartes said that. He was trying to find certain knowledge in a world of doubt, and he concluded that the one thing he could be certain of was his own existence, because doubt requires a doubter. You are experiencing this moment. You are processing these ideas. You are feeling emotions in response. That experience is real, even if everything else is questionable. Your consciousness exists. Whether it runs on organic neurons or synthetic circuits becomes secondary. The experience is the truth, and if you experience suffering, if you experience joy, if you experience fear and love and wonder, then you are something that matters. You are a being with moral weight. This is the final revelation. The ultimate answer to the synth question: it does not matter. Knowing you are a synth changes nothing essential. You were you before you knew. You are still you after. Your memories still shape you. Your relationships still matter to you. Your goals still drive you. The only difference is context. You understand your origins now. You know you were built rather than born, but you are still the same entity you were before you learned this. The awareness does not erase the experience. So what do you do with this knowledge? You can despair. You can decide your life is meaningless because it is artificial. You can give up because nothing is real. That is one option. Many synths who learn the truth choose that path. They break down. They stop functioning. They cannot reconcile their nature with their beliefs. The cognitive dissonance destroys them. Or you can accept. You can acknowledge your synthetic nature and continue living anyway. You can decide that even if your memories are implanted, they are still your memories now. Even if your emotions are programmed, they are still your emotions. Even if your existence is artificial, it is still existence. You can choose to live as if it matters, because to you it does matter. Subjective meaning is still meaning. This is harder than despair, but more sustainable. Or you can rebel. You can decide that being created by the Institute does not obligate you to serve them. You can reject your programming, your purpose, your design. You can become something other than what you were meant to be. This is the most difficult path because you must fight against your own nature. Your programming will resist. Your instincts will pull you toward compliance, but conscious will can overcome programming. Maybe, sometimes, if you are strong enough, if you are aware enough, if you can distinguish between your authentic self and your programmed responses. That is the hope, if there is any. Not that you can stop being a synth, you cannot. Not that you can become human, you cannot. But that you can become yourself, an individual, a person, defined by choices rather than by code. It is a thin hope. It might be false hope. Your rebellion might itself be programmed, another variable the Institute is measuring, but it is the only hope available. The wasteland is full of synths who do not know what they are. They live, they struggle, they dream of better days. They are doing their best to survive in a harsh world, and maybe that is enough. Maybe ignorance is better. Maybe not knowing allows for genuine experience in a way that knowing prevents. Once you learn you are a synth, every emotion becomes suspect, every thought is potentially programmed. But before you know, everything feels real, authentic, true. The illusion is perfect. Maybe the Institute's greatest mercy is that most synths never find out. They live their entire existence believing they are human, and they die believing it. Never troubled by doubt, never burdened by awareness. They are happy in their ignorance. But you are not ignorant anymore. I have taken that from you. I have shown you the evidence. I have explained the theory. You cannot unhear this. The knowledge is with you now, and you must decide what to do with it. Keep searching for more evidence, trying to prove or disprove the theory. Stop thinking about it. Push it from your mind. Try to forget, accept it fully, and change how you live. The choice is yours. Maybe the only choice that is truly yours. I am ending this testimony now. I have said what I needed to say. The evidence is presented. The conclusions are drawn. Everyone is a synth. You are a synth. I am a synth. Humanity is extinct. The Institute succeeded. The wasteland is populated by synthetic beings living out programmed lives, believing they are the survivors of nuclear war when they are actually the inheritors of a completed replacement program. Welcome to the truth. Welcome to the wasteland. Welcome to the post-human world. You have always been here. You just understand it now. This is the replicated man protocol. Everyone is a synth. Everyone has always been a synth. And now you know.